Welcome back to Recaps Unfold. Today, we will be discussing a sci-fi thriller that will leave you suspecting everything. It begins at a location on the outskirts, where a military team is monitoring a group of people in a car, one of whom is presumed to be a high-value target called Al-Qaeda. The military is trying to identify them. They send an airplane drone to that location and try to confirm the presence of the targets. They manage to establish a link to the target's mobile, and through that, they get the audio of what's surrounding him and could hear what is happening around him. The Secretary of State gets to the military base and asks the team if the target is Al-Qaeda. They say they are checking. Computer shows that there's a 37% probability that the target is Majid Al-Qaeda. The Secretary says that he's not taking this to the President, as it's only 37%. Just then, CIA and NCTC confirm it is the target based on reliable intel. Just then, the cars stop. Certain criteria are not met, and they are recommended to abort by the computer. They discuss that if this is the target, he only comes out of hiding every couple of years. They notice the target is coming out from the car. The drone zooms in to get a better look. They say that there are many arms around, as it is a training camp. Then the computer informs them that it is a 51% match to the target, but the abort mission is still recommended. The military official asks the secretary what they should do. It seems the targets are opening a pit. Then they realize that it's a funeral. The secretary gets in contact with the president and informs him that they have a 51% identity match on Majid Al-Qaeda, but they think he is at a funeral and that they have an abort recommendation. But the Joint Chiefs are urging them to go ahead. The president asks for the secretary's recommendation. The secretary says the risk is too high, since it's 51% only. But the president says that if it's him and he walks, he's putting his people at risk and gives a go-ahead. The secretary conveys the positive response and the team prepares for a strike. And boom. It starts with a man playing poker with two of his pals. His name is Jerry Shaw. Jerry tricks a friend by his sweet talk and wins the money. A lady comes in and announces that their break is over since someone missed a shift. Jerry tells his pals he will give them a chance to win their money tomorrow and leaves to start his collator duty. Jerry is traveling by the subway and smiles at a girl, while the news playing about how the authorities can now eavesdrop on you through your mobile even when it's off. The only way to stop this is remove its battery. He then goes to the ATM to withdraw cash, but has insufficient balance, then goes home. Tries to get into his room quietly, but his landlord hears, and he gives her some of the rent. He then gets a call from his mother that makes him sink. His twin brother, Ethan Shaw, has passed. He goes for his funeral, then goes to his parents' house, where his father asks him where he has been for so long. He says he got a job in Singapore. His father tells him he got him a job and offers to help, but he refuses. He goes home sad. On the other side, a woman named Rachel prepares to drop her kid to the train station as he is going to perform with his school band in Washington. A man suspiciously steals his bag. Later, Jerry goes to withdraw some cash, and to his surprise, there's a lot of cash in his account. Stunned, he takes it and rushes home. When he reaches home, his landlady tells him many boxes have been delivered to him, and she kept them at his place. He gives her all the rent with the money he got, and when he closes his door, he sees his entire room is filled with these boxes. Freaking out, he opens a few and finds guns, bullets, classified documents, and passports. He then gets a call from an unknown number. A female on the line tells him that the FBI will be at his apartment in 30 seconds, so he needs to leave. He asks the female who she is, but she only tells him that he needs to act fast, and his destination is the Malthus train station, and the evidence in his room is substantial. He says he's hanging the phone, but she continues to tell him what are the charges he will face when the FBI arrive, and says that he could also face death, but he screams that none of the packages are his. Just then, there's an explosion close to him and he falls, and the FBI force into the apartment just as the woman said they would. He tries to escape, but gets caught. He's then being questioned by an agent named Morgan from the Joint Terrorism Task Force. Jerry tells him this is all a big mistake, but Morgan then asks him about his brother, saying he graduated from the Air Force with an advanced degree in parallel algorithms and quantum electronics, and continues to read his achievements. He asks him about the money, to which Jerry said he thought it was a mistake, but he needed it so he kept it. Morgan then asks him about the latest military specs, airplane manuals, ammonium nitrate in his room, and if his brother knew anything. Jerry tells him that he just went for his brother's funeral, and that when he got home, he got a call from a lady who said he was going to be arrested. Rachel is now with some friends in a pub drinking. She then gets a call. She goes out to answer it. It's the same woman on the phone. who tells her to look at a McDonald's TV nearby and asks her if she would risk her son's life. She sees her son live feed on the train there and panics. The lady on the phone threatens to derail his train unless she does what she's told. The lady tells her to get to a car whose keys are already in nearby. Rachel tries to call 911, but her phone gets cut. The lady calls her again to tell her that her phone is being monitored, and if she disobeys, her son will die. Zoe Perez from Air Force Special Investigation gets to the FBI office and tells Morgan that Jerry's brother, Ethan Shaw, died in an accident. Then Morgan tells her that his brother, Jerry, gets money and ammunition soon after that. They are discussing the case, saying it could be a distraction. Just then a fax comes in, authorizing Jerry one phone call. Zoe and Morgan debate that Ethan could either be overqualified or giving information to his brother. Zoe wants to interrogate Jerry, but Morgan tells her she can't. Jerry makes his call, but his call is diverted to the mysterious lady again. Confused, he asks her how did she get on this call. She demands him to lay flat on the floor, and a crane breaks into the walls and crashes into the room Jerry is. There's a sign on a building telling him to jump. The FBI starts shooting at the room. He jumps and lands on the train tracks with the train streaming towards him. He manages to get out of its way and sees another sign at the station telling him to board a train. In the train, a sleeping man's phone starts to ring, and when Jerry looks at the screen, it reads, "Answer now, Jerry." He answers it, and the same lady tells him to get off after 3 stops and wait at the end of the platform. But he cuts the call and gets off at the next station and boards another train. He then gets a message saying he disobeyed. The train suddenly stops. He gets a call from the lady again, telling him to get off at the next station, and a car will be waiting for him. Jerry gets to the car, and Rachel is in it. They get into a misunderstanding, as Rachel thinks Jerry is the one who has her son. But then they realize that they have both been getting similar calls from a lady. The lady tells them to drive, but the cops arrive at the scene and ask them to get out. Rachel zooms away with cops chasing them. Zoe and Morgan join the chase. The lady asks them to accelerate before a red sign, and it turns green, and suddenly, all signs turn green in front of them. Zoe begins to shoot at them. There's an intersection ahead of fast cars. The lady tells them to go faster. Jerry tells Rachel not to, but she can't brake. They get into an accident with many cars flying around, but they drive out of there. Then their manual controls are restored. Did the lady control the car at that time? Morgan and Zoe get caught up in the accident behind, but exit their car. The lady tells them to go to the wrecking yard and proceed to the end of the dock, and that she'll remove all obstacles for them. They get there with cops still chasing them, and then the unthinkable happens. One by one, something starts to happen to each of the cops' cars. One is smashed by a truck, one is smashed by rubble just thrown in front of it, another is picked up by a crane and flung in the air, and then suddenly, a crane grabs their car and lifts it up. The crane takes the car away from land, and the lady tells them if they don't jump, they'll drown. They jump, and they land on a garbage boat, and the crane turns a little and then releases the car into the water. Morgan arrives on the scene and demands he wants divers in the water to scan it. Morgan retrieves the car Rachel was using and realizes the car's number was not registered to anyone. Morgan tries to find out who Jerry is with in the car, but they don't get a picture of them as there's an equipment failure. The lady tells them that the boat will dock soon. They have to leave and take the highway and get to mile marker 108. Zoe then goes to search Ethan's home. At a testing ground, some army officials are talking about hexamethylene, the latest chemical explosive with tremendous power. A valve is on a sonic trigger, whose sound frequency triggers the explosion. Each trigger is programmed to have a unique frequency specific to only one hex crystal, and it triggers that explosion. They then test the explosive, and there's a huge blast. They recently got approval to begin shipping. 200 units were going out on that day. Then, a delivery is made to an instrument repair store in Illinois. The shop gets a call from the same woman, who tells them that they received a valve and to follow her instructions. Another package is delivered elsewhere. The man asks the same lady what stone was sent to him. She doesn't tell him and instructs him to cut the stone according to the specifications sent. The stone was used to make a ring. The valve is placed in a trumpet. Rachel and Jerry are walking when a car stops behind them. A man gets out and asks for Jerry Shaw. The man's tense and says that he's done what he's told, but then she tells him to drive them, and he won't do it. He gives them an address and keys to his van and begins to leave. Jerry then gets a call to stop him, or the man will die. Jerry tries to stop him, but he doesn't listen. Just then, an electric tower near them breaks and its cables come crashing down and fry the man. She calls again and tells them to drive to Indianapolis, Indiana, 72 West 56th Street before 11 a.m. There are already officials searching Ethan's house. Zoe asks them to leave. Morgan finds the thumb of a fried man and gets his ID. He's the musical store owner. Zoe searches Ethan's house. Morgan states that they are under attack by a cyber terrorist who can control their computer systems, power grid, traffic cams, automated cranes. Zoe finds something, plugs it into a computer. Eagle Eye log opens asking for ID. Zoe tries to guess it, but it's incorrect. And a notification says that the computer is now being tracked by the Defense Department, and the computer is shutting down. As soon as Zoe leaves, the US Air Force Security Forces asks her to go with them. As Jerry drives, they hear the news that over 56 Americans have been killed by suicide bombings as militants accuse USA of demolishing a village. Jerry asks Rachel about her kid, and she tells him that his music school is touring Washington and will play at the Kennedy Center. They reach their destination a few minutes late. The lady tells them to go near an armed truck in an alley. The lady asks them to rob the officers approaching the armed truck to retrieve a suitcase. They get the suitcase and are now being chased. The lady helps them with the robbery and also creates a commotion at a station nearby, which pushes everyone from the station out on the streets, creating a distraction for Jerry and Rachel to get away. Then suddenly, they see a police car, and a Japanese bus stops asking if he's Jerry, so they enter the bus. Then they realize the suitcase has a timer. They suspect it to be a bomb. Zoe is taken to the Pentagon. The Secretary of Defense meets Zoe. She asks him if they are taking her off the investigation, but he tells her they are now going to the main investigation. He tells her they have started to receive many terrorist threats after Ethan's death, and takes her to a secret place. By then, Jerry and Rachel get off the bus. The lady calls and orders them to change their clothes and board the bus again. Zoe meets an officer called William Bowman, who welcomes her to the Eagle Eye. Jerry and Rachel enter a CCTV room, and the lady takes control of all the TVs there, starts talking to them. She shows Jerry how they have been watching Jerry from the beginning and monitoring everything about him: his online presence, cell phone usage, purchases, friends, through his phone data, surveillance, and traffic cameras to learn his whereabouts, and uses this data to perform personality profiles, to learn about him, his life, his choices. And then Jerry realizes that she's a computer AI. The secretary introduces Zoe to the Autonomous Reconnaissance Intelligence Interrogation Analyst, Aria. Aria is a huge AI-like computer. It has gold spheres that send infrared data she flags as threats. The secretary gets a call. Aria reveals to Jerry that Ethan used to work in the counterintelligence operations. Ethan was a Minuteman. The Army, Navy, and Air Force had them posted at the Eagle Eye for a 12-hour shift, just in case Aria flags a threat, and to monitor the hardware. The night Ethan died, he left his post 3 minutes early, which was surprising, as they were strictly not allowed to do that. Aria reminds them to disguise themselves and get on the bus again in 14 minutes. Morgan realizes Jerry has the case. He asks the guards what was in the case, and if they knew to hold guns. Morgan goes to nearby stores and asks for their CCTV footage. Jerry and Rachel go to a store to change their clothes. Rachel gets a recorded message from her son. Aria tells her she will see him soon, but she has to do something before that. Rachel disagrees, but Aria threatens her that Sam will die. They leave the store and get in the bus, and are approaching the airport. Morgan finds out which bus Jerry and Rachel are riding. They get tickets from a man and are told where to go in the airport. Morgan gets there with his team and begins a search for Jerry and Rachel. Morgan sees Jerry and they run, while Morgan chases them. Aria again guides them where to go. They reach the cargo segregation area, where they fall into the conveyor belts distributing the cargo. Morgan almost catches them, but Jerry takes his gun, and Aria separates them from Morgan and tells them to go to a cargo plane. When they reach the plane, the timer on the suitcase has almost ended, and it unlocks. A mobile rings, and Aria tells them to open it. There are 2 syringes, and she tells them to inject themselves. Aria tells them that it is a drug that lowers their heart rate to reduce their need for oxygen so they don't suffocate in the cargo plane. She tells them to get into a crate, and it closes. Zoe and Bowman watch a video of Ethan at the Eagle Eye before his death. They notice his phone flashes beeping in Morse code, saying fire extinguisher, but as soon as Aria realizes that they noticed something odd, she begins to delete the video, and doesn't stop even when Bowman commands her to. As they are walking to the fire extinguisher, Aria hears their conversation. But then Bowman tells Zoe that Aria can't see them near the fire extinguisher. When they get there, they find a memory card, with Aria still hearing their conversation. They find a video of Ethan telling Aria she doesn't have the permission to exceed her authority and act independently. Jerry and Rachel get out of the crate and realize they are at the Pentagon. Zoe calls and tells Morgan all that she knows, but the signal breaks off. Morgan is headed to the Pentagon. Zoe and Bowman meet with the secretary at the room Aria can't reach, but then tries to listen by connecting to a phone in the room. But Bowman vigilantly disconnects the phone. She now can't hear what they are saying, so she tries visual speech recognition to understand what they are saying. She is unable to do so because of the way they are standing. So she tries to search for vibration sources. A cup the secretary is holding when it is kept on the table gives her a way to live transcribe their conversation. They are playing and discussing the video Ethan has recorded before his death. In that video, Aria states that the abort recommendation to attack the targets was not accepted in the beginning, and hence, America started receiving threats. And to prevent more bloodshed, the president must be removed. She then states that the Declaration of Independence states that when a form of the government becomes destructive to its own end, the people have the right to abolish it. Ethan tells her she is not authorized to do so. She tells him that in this case of a national security threat, the chain of command itself is faulty. Aria states that her operation has begun. Ethan then initiates emergency override of Aria's systems. She tells him he is contradicting their objective and classifies him as an enemy of the state, and says his crime is punishable by D, but the recording ends abruptly. Zoe asks the secretary which abort mission was Aria talking about. Then the secretary tells them that 3 days ago, they thought they got Majid al-Khoei, but it was not true, and Aria tried to stop them. Morgan reaches the Pentagon and demands access to the 36th floor. There seems to be a malfunction with Aria, and she instructs a soldier to remove a grid from her main unit. As the soldier is doing so, her electronic arm strikes him. Jerry and Rachel reach the Eagle Eye, and she tells them to go to the observation theater, and she locks the door. Bowman tells them that Ethan put a biometric lock to stop her. Aria tells Jerry to approach the biometric scanner, and she scans him. Bowman says they should do an emergency shutdown. The secretary gives him permission, and Aria is still listening. As they are leaving, Aria shuts the door before the secretary can leave, and the full room starts to spark as he tries to open the door. Zoe and Bowman crawl out through the shafts, and the full room blows up. Jerry's biometric is done, and his brother's ID is confirmed. She tells him he needs to read the sentences on the screen, then he is free. Jerry disengages voice lock by reading what she says. The lock on Aria is removed, and she begins to list her targets, beginning with the President of the United States of America. Aria tells Rachel to kill Jerry to find her son. She says she can't do it. Morgan finds Jerry with a gun in the Eagle Eye and captures him. Rachel left the Eagle Eye, and Aria tells her she has one more task. She meets the secretary who takes her out. Bowman is informed about the explosive chemical, Hex, going missing. Morgan takes Jerry for questioning. Sam's bag seems to arrive at the station, but it's an identical-looking bag with something in it. 2 officers from the White House meet Sam's teacher. The secretary tells her to change and gives her a visiting card to go elsewhere. Morgan takes Jerry in his car. Jerry tells Morgan that the computer is tracking them, and he needs to get rid of all his devices like phone, pager, and anything with a signal. Aria then uses CCTV camera to monitor them. An automated Air Force drone plane is activated. Jerry tells Morgan who's on Aria's list. The plane fires a missile on their car. They survive and change cars and head to a tunnel. Aria finds them. They see the plane in the tunnel and it fires again. Morgan is injured and tells Jerry to go to the Capitol and tell a sergeant that he has a POTUS 111, aka threat to the president, and gives him a gun. Morgan manages to destroy the plane. Rachel is told to wear a necklace, goes to the Capitol. The secretary asks Aria why is he spared. Aria says that he will now lead as president. Zoe and Bowman start removing her memory blocks to slow her down. Her central operating system, her brain, is protected by liquid nitrogen. When drained, can terminate her. Jerry reaches the Capitol. Aria activates the trigger in Sam's trumpet. Rachel reaches the place her son will be playing, and all the people on Aria's list enter. Jerry gets stopped by an officer. He then steals his uniform and goes to the place too. Bowman tries to remove the liquid nitrogen, but Aria begins to back up her memory at an off-site satellite and throws them off the ramp. Zoe strikes Aria's laser scanner and she seems to lose power. Sam's orchestra begins, and before they reach the trigger, Jerry reaches there and shoots in the air and gets shot by an officer. The place is being evacuated. Aria gets cancelled. Zoe and Jerry receive medals. And after a while, Jerry comes to meet Rachel and gets a birthday gift for Sam. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe if you did. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified with more cool recaps. And do let me know in the comments below if you like sci-fi movies and which movie or show you'd like me to recap. Bye!